looking for a man in finance with trust fund. 6'5", blue eyes.
If that's your a standard for attractiveness, they need to be blue-eyed, 6'5", in finance with a trust fund. Good luck. I'm not sure you're mature enough to get married. Remember that your vocation today is to love God and love his will and to love other people. The very first thing to do before going out to try to find the one is to ask yourself the question, am I the one? Hey guys, welcome back to the Lila Rose podcast. All right, in this episode, I want you to sit down with me and we're going to explore the question of how do I know whether or not this person is the one? Now wait, before you tune this out because you're already married and you already have found the one, or maybe you don't care about this topic, pause for a minute. This content, I think, can help somebody that you know. That's why we're creating this episode, because a lot of people are asking this question. How do I know that the person that I'm dating, or how do I know when I'm dating that person in the future is the one? So tag this episode, send it to a friend who might be contemplating this, or a daughter, or maybe you're a grandparent, a granddaughter, whatever it might be. Or if you are in these shoes, stay with me because this is going to be a series of principles that I think are going to help you in the future. Now, first of all, coming from personal experience, I am married. I've been married now 6 years, I think it is, going on 6 years. And yes, my husband is the one. The number one reason I know he is the one is this. We exchanged rings. We married each other. If you are married, and if you went into your marriage freely, you chose it freely, you knew the person you were marrying, it wasn't like they were tricking you into marrying them, and you went into it with the intention to be exclusive and permanent until death do you part, be open to life, all of these things, you are married to the one. This is not a marriage help episode about how to improve your marriage. We're going to do that in the future. We're going to do that with experts on the show if we have in the past. That's going to be coming down the pike. But starting out, if you are married, if you've exchanged rings, it really is that beautiful and that simple, then they are the one. God is not a trickster where you accidentally marry someone because you thought they were the one, then you wake up 5 months later and you're like, they're not the one anymore. Now, caveat there, obviously, if there's abuse or some other significant thing that was hidden during the marriage, that's a whole other question. We're not talking about that today. Today, it's the question of when you are trying to date or you are actively dating, how do you know that they are the one? Look, today's dating landscape is chaotic. I don't have to tell you that. You can see it, especially if you're in it. And it's tough out there too to find people that can be of a similar shared background in terms of values, in terms of life experiences, someone that can really complement you. So with all of that said, I get it. It's hard. That's why we're creating this episode. When you get married, you should be freely choosing it because you want to love them and be loved by them and help build a family with them, I believe, for the glory of God. You should not be marrying someone to complete you or to fill this massive hole in your heart. You want to go into relationship and into marriage from a place of contentedness in your love that you have with God and in the community and the lifestyle that you've been developing for yourself. Now, this is not to say that when you're single and you're just longing for that love and that relationship, you can't have that deep, deep-seated longing in your heart. But you want to be entering dating and you want to be entering ultimately marriage from a place of personal peace and personal growth yourself. If you're going into it thinking that the marriage is going to fix your problems, the marriage is going to solve your problems, the marriage is going to finally make you feel okay, you might wake up and discover, no, that's not what marriage does for you. Marriage is a relationship where you love the other person, you serve the other person. It's not some magical trick to make you feel better about yourself. So I think that's an important first step, that you go into marriage not to complete yourself, but you go into marriage to find someone to help you journey and grow and hopefully build a family with. All right, so let me start with, we're going to do a few things. We're going to talk about personal basics. We're going to talk about relationship basics. We're going to talk about red flags or things that can go wrong that are important to note. And then we're going to talk about discernment principles. So there's 4 categories we are going to get into in this crash course in how to know if they are the one. First thing, personal basics. The very first thing to do before going out to try to find the one is to ask yourself the question, am I the one? Am I the one for the one that I want to marry? Am I the man or the woman that would make a good spouse for that man or that woman that is in my dreams or in my heart that I'm seeking out? You need to start from a place of self-awareness to really identify, how am I growing? Am I focused right now on my personal development, my physical health, my emotional health, my spiritual health? Am I working hard and growing in virtue in my life so that I can be that good spouse, that good future mother or father, that good future husband or wife? That always should be the first question, because love, the root of love, is about wanting the good for the other, and it's about self-gift. It's about wanting to be a gift for another person and receive the gift of another person. Nobody is entitled to get married. Nobody is entitled to the love of another person. We are seeking out an offering of ourselves, and also we're seeking out to be able to receive that other person. And so to be able to do that, right, you want to be in a position where you are seeking health yourself and you are seeking growth yourself. That is a beautiful position to be in, to be able to meet someone, ultimately fall in love, marry them, and grow together. Because ultimately marriage is about helping each other get to heaven, helping each other in a journey of building a family, Lord willing, and building a project here on earth as you prepare for eternity. So, number one question under personal basics, ask yourself, am I the one? And what are you doing to prepare to be that one for your future wife or your future husband? And regardless of whether you end up meeting that wife or husband in the near or far future, regardless of what happens tomorrow, this is always a good question to ask, period. Am I doing what I can today to be a better person, right? To be someone that has more virtue, to be someone that has more love, to be someone that is seeking the will of God in my life? That is a good question for all of us to ask, whether we are married or not married, regardless of our state in life. I think sometimes if we're thinking, am I the one? We might want to feel 100%. We are in the best shape of our life. We are healed from any childhood wounds we may feel we may have. We have all this money in the bank. We have this great job that's just skyrocketing towards success. I mean, we might have these unrealistic expectations about what being the one looks like. You want to be seeking out good stability in the career that you're pursuing. You want to be seeking out health in your physical and emotional life. You want to be working on prayer, but you're not perfect. Nobody is perfect. And yeah, you're seeking the best you can be, but you don't need to be perfect in order to get married. In fact, the reality is marriage is a journey. It's the beginning of something. It's not the destination. And it's the beginning of a life hopefully lived, growing better with somebody else. Like this clip that I saw recently.
Person is someone who comes along at a time in our life where we're working on our stuff. We haven't fixed it all. We're still working on it. They understand the DNA of our particular trauma or healing journey, or maybe through conversation, they come to understand it. They have enough compassion and enough empathy that they come to understand it, and us theirs. And you heal together. You go on that journey together. That to me is the right relationship, is the one that can go on the journey with you. And it's a bit redundant to say, but if I was further along on this journey, I would have been able to keep this person. But because I had still had too much stuff, I lost that person. There's like a science fiction element to that, then it's not your person. Your person is someone who can meet you where you're at and grow and heal with you.
I think this is great advice. So Matthew Hussey is this popular advice-giving guy on the internet. And I think it's a really wise point, because the reality is this: we're all on a journey of personal improvement as Christians, of sanctity, of growing in holiness. And we're looking for someone that we can be matched with to continue that journey. And neither of us are going to come into that as perfect people, but we're going to come into that as people that are seeking growth. And you want to be able to seek that growth together. So when you are thinking, am I the one? You're not thinking, am I the perfect one? But you're thinking, am I a one who's seeking growth? And when you're looking for that one, you're not looking for the perfect one. You're looking for that one who is also going to seek growth with you. Another important personal basic is this: vocationally, you might feel, if you're not married, you're listening to this, you're like, oh, I'm just so wrestling because I just feel like I'm called to marriage. I'm called to marriage. Vocationally, we don't know that we are called to marriage until we actually get married. Vocationally, we don't know that it's God's will for us to marry until we're actually married. Just like we don't know that we're going to be alive tomorrow. It's not like we have this promise, this manual that God sent us with our birth that tells us, in year 10, this is going to happen. In year 20, this is going to happen. When you're 30 years old, you'll have your first child. 28, you'll get married. That we don't come with a manual where God tells us what we're going to do. Occasionally, as you know, in Holy Scripture, there's divine revelation where God specifically calls someone to do something very specific. It's very supernatural. But typically speaking, for us, we have freedom, we have our lives, and we are not promised tomorrow. So our job in this life, our basic vocation, our shared vocation as human beings and lovers of God, is to love and to be loved. Is to love God, love other people, help share the gospel. That's the Christian job on this earth, and through love, is to share the gospel and do our best with the day that we're given. So that's meant to comfort you, by the way, because I think some people feel like, my life hasn't started yet. I'm not married yet. I think I'm called to marriage. My life must not have started yet. No, your life has definitely started if you're listening to this podcast. It's completely started. You're listening to this show, and today can be your best day yet if you're willing to give it to God and do your best to love. Even if there's tough stuff that comes your way, unexpected news, whatever it is, make this your best day yet by putting the maximum amount of love into the day that you're given today. And that's your vocation, your universal vocation to love. So that's an important place to start from. Ask yourself, am I the one? What are you doing to work on your own personal development? We talked about that before in the podcast and other episodes. We'll be doing future episodes on that. But you want to start from a position of humility and reality of saying, what am I doing today to grow? And then number two, remember that your vocation today is to love, is to seek God and his will, to love God and love his will, and to love other people. That is your vocation, and find peace and comfort in that. Lean into that. And that will help dissolve, I think, some of the anxieties we can feel when we feel the pressure of, I got to get married. I have to be married. Otherwise, I'm not living my life. I'm not in a vocation. Covenant Eyes helps men and women achieve victory over porn addiction by blocking explicit websites and helping you connect with your accountability partner. This is such a beautiful approach to ensuring that people can have victory over porn addiction. Covenant Eyes has a special program called Arise, which is a 21-day video series specifically designed to help Christian women overcome sexual addiction. Arise helps you identify the wounds at the root of sexual addiction. This is a safe and confidential community for support. You can get 30 days of Covenant Eyes for free by going to the link in the description and using the code Lila at checkout. Okay, next up, relationship basics. These are the basics that you need in a relationship with someone for them to be the one. Number one, I think it's essential before you marry someone and before they marry you that you are attracted to each other. So this is like a basic checklist. Now, some people find this a little controversial because they think, I just want to love someone and find someone really good. How attractive do I really have to be? You have to be attracted to them. That is a fundamental principle, I think, that anyone who's discerning whether or not they're the one should have crossed off, have that box checked. They should be attractive to you, and they should find you attractive. Now, you might be thinking, well, how attractive? And, there's a lot, especially in today with online dating and swipe left, swipe right. Do I find this person attractive on a first glance? I'm not talking about first glance attractiveness based on a profile picture on Tinder. In fact, I would argue that that is a bad recipe for determining whether or not someone is actually attractive to you. Attraction is more than your immediate response to them when you see them for the first time. Attraction has to do with overall how you feel drawn to them as you get to know them. So this is really important because I don't think we should be writing off people that we're not wowed by. Right? So if you see someone, you're like, they're maybe in your mind, you're thinking, they're nice, but I don't know that I'm like thinking they're super attractive. Well, if you got to know them, maybe you would think they're super attractive. So you have to give space in getting to know someone to see if that attraction can grow. If when you first meet them, you're not attracted at all, don't try to make them attractive to you. I think I'm not saying you have to go on a date with every single person who might ask you or ask anybody that you see. If you think they're a good person, you should just ask them out. Not necessarily. I think there needs to be some attraction there. But physical attraction has a lot more to do with than how someone immediately looks. It has also to do how they are in conversation with you, how they behave around you, how you feel around them. There's a lot that goes into it. Other people might call that chemistry, right? So give it time to grow. But at the end of the day, you got to be attracted to them. Now, some people will say, well, how attracted? How attracted do I need to be to them? Well, I think you need to be pretty attracted to them. Like attractive enough to want to build a family with them and make babies with them. Like it has to be that level of attraction and want not just to make the babies with them, but somebody that you'd want to raise babies with. So both of those things should go into attraction. But I think sometimes there's a tendency, especially in our comparison world of social media and all these things to like have like, are they a 10? Are they attractive enough for me? And I would caution that because I think sometimes we have these unrealistic aesthetic standards based on, unfortunately, media, quite frankly, for how exactly we want them to be. And that can be dangerous because that could actually opt us out, meeting, getting to know, falling in love with, and marrying the future love of our life. This is an ongoing conversation online too. This is a clip right here that is going viral.
I'm looking for a man in finance with trust fund. 6'5", blue eyes. Finance, trust fund. 6'5", blue eyes. I'm looking for a man. Finance, trust fund. 6'5", blue eyes. Finance, trust fund. 6'5", blue eyes.
All right. So obviously, if that's your a standard for attractiveness, they need to be blue-eyed, 6'5", in finance with a trust fund. Good luck. I'm not sure you're mature enough to get married. Like, that is my tough love talking to you right here. So obviously having these like very specific criteria to say they need to be this tall, have this color eyes, this color hair, this kind of a net worth, that I don't think is a good starting point for relational basics. I think you need to give people a chance. And if you feel drawn to them, if they're a person that has good virtue from what you can see, they have similar direction in life in terms of they want to build a family too, they're working hard, these things, and you have attraction towards them, I think you need to give it a chance to get to know them. All right, a couple more things. You need to share the same values. You need to feel attracted to them and be attracted, and you need to share the same values. What do I mean by that? I think values is often misunderstood. We think about values in terms of, oh, are they a Christian, or are they a Catholic, or, oh, do they love kids? Do they love babies? Yeah, of course, those are key questions to ask, but going a little deeper, what do they value? How do they live their life? If there's someone that maybe on paper, they check the box of they're Christian, right? They're Catholic. They want to have kids. They want to get married and have a family. But what are they valuing in their day-to-day lives? Are they valuing partying and eating out a lot and spending a lot of money, and that's just the way they kind of operate? Are they valuing community service, serving their family, serving their friends, being that person that is generous in how they help other people? That's a value. That's a way that they're living their life in their value system, right? Are they focused on material things, like they're always thinking about shopping, or they're having nicer car, or how they're really hyper focused on appearance, and maybe they're overspending. They seem to be really free with money on all of those things, and that's kind of takes up a lot of their time and their bandwidth. Or are they more focused on things like learning and working hard at their job or their career to become better at it and to provide or make a good living or help serve people or use their talents? Or are they more focused at developing deeper friendships, or investing time in their family and their own mother or father or siblings? Or, where are they putting their focus, right? Values is really about how do we work operationally in our life? What do we focus on in our life? Some people on paper could say that their values are X, Y, and Z, but when you get to know them and you see how they operate in the world, you realize actually they really value these other things. And that should be a real bright line for how you determine, is this the person I want to become one flesh with? Number 2, in addition to sharing the same values, they should also share the same faith and morals. So morals is a little more bright line than values. It's less about maybe how you spend your time and more about what you do or you don't do in terms of good or bad things. Because, clothes and cars and valuing your appearance, things like that, those are not bad things necessarily, right? They can actually be great things. It's about how you value those things. Morals are different. Does this person share your morals? Some very clear bright line morals that you should have when you're discerning if someone is the one, that they're going to respect the fact that we don't sleep with people before we're married. We don't lust after people, period. As Christians, that's our goal, is to not lust. And so we avoid lust. And we also practice chastity before and after marriage. And chastity means loving the person as a subject and not an object. So not using someone for sexual pleasure, but instead loving someone for who they are and putting sex in its proper place. And the proper place of sex, of course, is marriage. So that's really a deal breaker. If you're dating someone that doesn't see sex as belonging within marriage, doesn't see sexual things as belonging within marriage, that's a bright line. They're not living a moral path that would make them a good partner for you. Connected to that is faith. I do think it's important to marry someone who shares your faith. Is it possible to marry someone who doesn't share your faith and to still have a good marriage? Yes, I think it is. But I think it is best to seek out someone who shares your faith. And at minimum, they need to be someone who supports your faith. So this is a bright line. They are not going to be the one for you if they take you away from your faith. They're not going to be the one for you if they're not willing to raise your kids in the faith. They're not going to be the one for you if they are in any way going to mock your faith or be a stumbling block to the faith. At the minimum, they need to support your faith. And at maximum, what you're looking for is someone who's going to grow in the faith with you. Last one, they need to know what marriage is for and be fully willing to say yes to that. Now, this is a little tricky for people today because we've lost sense of what marriage even is. A lot of people think marriage is an event, literally. It's a wedding that you have, and then you go back to living with the person like you were before. A lot of people are doing it that way. But marriage is so much more than just living with someone or having a big party to celebrate, exchanging rings with your friends. Marriage is about complete self-gift of yourself to another person, for life until death do you part, exclusively. That means fidelity, just you and them, emotionally, sexually. This is the person for life that you're going to pour yourself into and invest in. And that this is a marriage that is freely chosen. You're not going into it because you feel coerced or pressured. You're freely choosing it. They are freely choosing it. And finally, you are open to children. You might not be given children in your marriage, but you're open to being fruitful and bringing children into this world. And so for Catholics, that means no contraception. We're not going to be contracepting. You might use fertility awareness to space your pregnancies or to space the time that you may be conceiving, but you're not going to be preventing conception through artificial means, through contraception. And it means generosity, a willingness to bring life into the world and a readiness to raise those children. So if the person that you're considering to marry isn't on the same page about that marriage is exclusive, that it's permanent, it's for life. If there's someone going into it thinking that, oh, divorce is okay, if things get really bad between you guys, you'd fall out of love, things get rough, and they think a divorce is okay, you can't marry them. You're not going into a true marriage with them because they need to be all in. And if there's someone who's like, I'm not sure if I want kids, I don't know if I want them, that's not a spouse. That's somebody that maybe wants to be a partner in terms of just like live with you and be together with you, but that's not a spouse who's willing to be fruitful with you and open to fruitfulness with you. Now, again, none of us are promised children. Some of us have fertility issues, but the openness has to be there. The openness has to be there. So, are you attracted to them? Do you share the same values, morals, and faith? And are you both on the same page about what marriage is? And are you both ready and willing to say yes to each other? If those things are in line, you're good. That's a very good foundation to work off of when determining if this is the one. Love your neighbor. It's a command that's been given to us. And for hundreds of years, loving your neighbor through healthcare was an important part of living out your faith. In fact, healthcare in general was done by neighbors coming together to support each other and ensure that each other's needs are met. This is one of the reasons that I love CrowdHealth. Instead of relying on an insurance company who may or may not pay for the bill, CrowdHealth allows you to crowdfund so that your neighbors that you are in a community with can help fund those bills. What's amazing is that CrowdHealth has funded over 5,000 medical bills in just the last 2 years. CrowdHealth is your solution to the insurance companies and the big pharma companies that have created so much dissatisfaction in the healthcare world. The CrowdHealth service team is there for you to help you with your medical bills, help negotiate the best deal with the service provider, and then help you crowdfund through the community to ensure that your bills get covered. Take, for example, a young woman in Tennessee who is 19 years old and who lost her fingers in a tragic boating accident. CrowdHealth got the medical bills, negotiated them, and then went to the funding community. Her bills were completely covered by the CrowdHealth funding community. Whether it's accidents like this one, everything from babies in NICU to brain tumors, the CrowdHealth community is designed to support your neighbor when they are in need. What's so powerful about this healthcare is that it's done voluntarily through the principle of loving one's neighbor by all of the people who are bought into the system. Keep in mind, CrowdHealth is not insurance. It's a system to better love your neighbor and experience a community in helping you with your healthcare. Join crowdhealth.com, use the code Lila to get your first 3 months for only $99. Some more red flags to run through in your discernment process. All right, we talked about this earlier, but it is possible to have standards that are too high and unrealistic for a person, especially when you're first meeting them, that prevent you from getting to know them. You know, certain superficial standards about how they have to look or things they have to be interested in. You might think, oh, I have this type. My type is that they're a musician that has tattoos, that is really reckless and loves to ride motorcycles. I don't know, right? Or my type is, you know, someone who's really, you know, wearing a suit and like has a job in finance, trust fund, 6'5", blue eyes, whatever, right? Or my type is somebody that's really into reading and loves to study and is really theological and philosophical. And, you know, you might have these ideas of what your type is. I would caution you about your type because the truth is many of us, for all of the self-awareness we think we have, we're not perfectly self-aware. And if you feel a sense of drawedness to someone, if they match you when it comes to your morals, to your faith, if you have an attraction towards them, don't write them off just because they're not your type. Don't write them off because they have a tattoo. Don't write them off because they don't have tattoos. Some of these things I think are very arbitrary, and you got to be wary about maybe biases that you have against certain things or for certain things that are not really that important in the long run. Now, motorcycle, I'm not a huge fan. My husband was riding a motorcycle. Now we have little kids. It'd be like, too much risk. I don't like it. That's different, right? But I'm more talking about when you're getting to know somebody, okay? When you're getting to know somebody, be open. Be open, because you might be surprised by finding out down the line that you've come to love this person and want them to be the one, and they might look different than what you expected or what you thought you wanted when you first went into dating. A couple good red flag questions to ask, to stress test your discernment process. Would you want this person to raise your child? Would you want this person to be the mother or the father of your child? If, God forbid, you passed away, would you entrust this person with your future offspring? Another red flag, and this is especially for the ladies or the guys out there who I can relate to this because I was like this in the past, where you get very drawn or excited by very intense people and intense experiences. And there's something almost tempting about someone who is hard to get, or there's someone tempting about somebody who seems mysterious and kind of goes dark on you, or something tempting about someone who's themselves pretty troubled and maybe rough around the edges, sort of that edgy thing, which has very intense experiences that accompanies it. And if you're drawn to that, it might be because you have a wound in how you were attached to your parent as you were growing up. Now, we're not going to get into all the details on this, but there's something called attachment styles. You might have grown up thinking that love involved people that disappeared and then came back, or love involved people that were unpredictable, or love involved somebody who was, quite frankly, maybe abusive, or they would yell. And your view or your experience of love has been a little bit twisted. So you got to be on guard with this.
No, I don't think he's right for me. It's a pass. He's so direct, there's no surprises there. There's not a lot to discover. It's nice to be so physically, emotionally attracted to someone, but that's not what life is. Life is about challenges and shadows and corners and feeling weird.
All right. I mean, there you go. It's like this girl, she's like looking for it to be weird and intense and hot and cold, and they're too emotionally stable and the relationship almost feels too good, so I'm going to run from this. It feels too normal. You want to leave the person that you are falling in love with a feeling of peace. Someone compared it to me once when I was in my 20s and going dating and everything. You want it to be like the same way you feel after you have hung out with your grandma, if your grandma's a sweetheart, right? But the idea is like you want it to feel peaceful, not feel like you don't know what to expect. There's all this tumult and torment. It's hot and cold. That is not recipe for a healthy relationship, and that is definitely a red flag. Other red flags. You want to avoid complexes that you might bring into dating. Number one complex could be a messiah complex or a missionary dating complex, where you're going into dating to fix somebody. You're going into dating because you feel really bad for somebody and you just love them and you want to take care of them. You're going into dating because you think that dating and marriage is just hard and this person is going to be your cross. And so it's just really, you feel like there's just like a lot of spirituality wound up in, I have to kind of suffer through this thing with this person, but that's going to help me become a better person. No, you shouldn't be choosing marriage with a person so that you can suffer. Suffering will come in life, period. And you shouldn't, of course, be running from any suffering, but you need to be careful about complexes that might arise, because some people go into it feeling really drawn to someone who's deeply wounded, or maybe because of the wounds that you might have, you might go into a relationship and feel that there's this excitement with the relationship because the way that your wounds, both of you, are interacting with each other. There's a lot more to say about this, by the way. A lot of it has to do with how we attach to other people and our attachment disorders we might have, or the way that we're drawn to people. We're not going to get into all of that right now, but suffice to say for today, you want to ensure that when you're discerning if somebody is the one, you're thinking through, am I going into this from a place of health or unhealth in the way that I'm drawn to this person, and for the reasons I have the desires I have for wanting to marry this person. I'm so excited to tell you about our sponsor, GoodRanchers.com. GoodRanchers.com is American meat delivered. Did you know that up to 90% of the meat in your grocery store is not from the United States? It might say product of the USA on it, but it's actually not from American ranchers. It's imported in. What I love about GoodRanchers.com is it's 100% sourced from the United States. It's sourced from American ranchers, usually small businesses, and their standards are great. So as you guys know, there is a presidential election coming up in just a few weeks here, and we make our voices heard at the ballot box. Well, what I love about what GoodRanchers.com is doing is they are letting you make your voice heard about supporting American ranchers and getting the best-in-class product of meat, fish, poultry, all of it, pork to your door. So you can vote with your dollar. In honor of the presidential election, Good Ranchers has a special right now where if you order a subscription box, you get 4 years free of your choice of add-ons between ground beef, chicken breast, those are my favorite, salmon, or bacon. And if you use the code Lila at checkout, you'll get an additional $25 off your order plus free and fast shipping. So go to goodranchers.com today and put in your order and enjoy American meat delivered. Principles for active discernment. All right, you have your personal basics down. You're working on personal development. You're working on your spiritual growth. You're working on your relationship growth, your emotional growth. In addition to that, there's also relationship basics that are checked off, right? This is someone who shares your morals, your values, your faith. This is someone that has the same view of marriage that you do. So much of discernment, I think, can be boiled down to this simple recipe. And I got this recipe from my spiritual director back in the day, and I've given this advice to countless people. I know a lot of people have used this, and it's really helped them, and it's very simple. I like that. Discernment about whether or not someone is for you should start in the heart. You should feel drawn to them. You should feel an attraction towards them. It needs to go to the head, where you go through this. Yeah, it involves, in a sense, a checklist of getting to know them, understanding them. Is this somebody that I would raise children with, that I would entrust my life to? This is where you ask those questions about, do they share your values? Do they share your morals? Do they share your faith? Is this somebody that has the same view of marriage as I do? Is this somebody that is also ready to freely commit to a marriage and everything that a marriage entails, right? You go and do that relational homework, so to speak, and really getting to know someone. And by the way, that process should not feel like some big chore, okay? You should enjoy yourself, I think, as best you can in dating and getting to know someone. This is a human being, a beautiful soul that you're getting to spend time with, and that hopefully you can edify and they can edify you, regardless of whether or not you choose to be with each other. So the whole process of your head, when I say checklist, yes, it is a checklist in many ways to ensure that this is the right person, thinking through if this is the right person, experiencing it through with them. But it's also a beautiful soul, a friend that you're deepening a relationship with that you can hopefully learn from and they can learn from you. A nice principle here is you want to leave people better than you found them. I really thought about this a lot in my 20s when I was dating a lot, that I hoped that I could be left better than I was found when I got into a relationship with someone, and I wanted to leave them better than I found them. One surefire way to ensure that that's possible is to avoid having sex with them, getting sexual with them, protecting chastity with them so that you're not objectifying them and instead you're seeing them as this soul that God is giving you this time with. That is a good way to put a firewall around the relationship so that you're not sabotaging yourself and them. But you want to be edified by them. You want to learn from them. You want to be able to share experiences with them. All of that is normal and healthy. It starts in the heart, it goes to the head, and then if it checks out in the head, send it back to the heart. Is this someone you really want to say yes to? Or is this someone, if you're the guy, that you really want to ask? And some people wrestle with it like, oh, I don't know. Do I really want it? Do I want it enough? There's real discernment angst that can come there because different people have different issues or different temperaments. And that's where it's really important to have good community and a good guide, a spiritual mentor that you can talk about the relationship with, or wise people that you can talk about the relationship with. Because they will know you. You want people that know you and get to know you, because maybe you're the kind of person that needs to be kind of nudged to do the right thing. Maybe you're like struggling with paralysis or inertia. You're like, should I ask them or not to marry me? I don't know. And you need someone to be like, you got this. You're 90% of the way there. You love them. The time's right. You're ready to get married. Just go for it. Jump off the cliff. Or maybe you're the kind of person that's really impulsive and you're jumping off too many cliffs, and your advisor in your life or one of your mentors is like, you're kind of rushing into this. You're being impulsive. You're super attractive. It's only been a couple months. Like, are you sure you're ready to get down on one knee? Or are you sure you're ready to say yes if they got down on one knee? So having those voices in your life of people who know you and love you and are wiser than you, at least in certain areas, is really, really helpful. I don't think we're meant to discern things all by ourselves. I think we're supposed to have other people guide us along the way. Now, this doesn't mean you have a committee of like 50 people that you get their votes on whether or not you should move forward with a relationship. No, don't do that. But have people in your corner who love you, who want you to succeed, who have wisdom, who understand you, at least understand you pretty well, and that could be sounding boards for you as you're making such a huge decision as whether or not to marry someone. But if it goes back to your heart, and the heart ultimately is a yes, I want this. And if the other person wants to marry you too, you are golden. You are now on your path to marrying the one. And they will officially become the one after the vows have been said. There you go. There's your primer. I think sometimes we overcomplicate discernment. We're looking for these special signs from God to tell us we should do something, when a lot of the time God is going to work through our desires. He's going to work through the people that are wise, that we know, that love us. And he's going to work through the relationship that we're exploring and discovering with another person to give us the confirmation, both in our heart and our head, that we can move forward and say yes. In the end, the beautiful thing is this: you can't go wrong if you're practicing these basic principles. If you're going into it understanding what marriage is with enough of your own self-awareness, you're seeking someone who shares your values, your morals, your faith, and you're truly getting to know them. If they want to marry you and you want to marry them, there's no significant reason why not to get married. You should go for it. That's the beauty of this, is that we have the gift of freedom that God has given each of us. And it's not like God is waiting for us to accidentally marry someone and make some big mistake and ruin our life. That's not how God works. He works through our reason. He works through the events of our life. He works through the wise people that might be in our life. And he works through the desires of our heart. I hope this episode was helpful for you. If it was, please send this to a friend. I want to spread this information far and wide because a lot of people are wrestling with these questions. And as always, thank you so much for listening to the Lila Rose podcast. We'll see you guys next time. A huge thank you to our partner, EWTN. EWTN is the world's leading Catholic network, reaching millions with the truth about the faith, entertainment, and news. Check them out at EWTN.com.